You want me to put that on my todger?
This one's wife. Harry. No time for you. Hello. I'm H.G. Tudor. At the time of recording this, Harry has probably breakfasted and is sat in his underwear in his hotel room, scratching his thinning thatch, talking to his teddy bear, and wondering how he's going to fill in the time, seeing as nobody wants to bother with him. How so? Well, he's suffering a bit of a double smackdown at the moment, as Kate Mansi reports in The Times. Buckingham Palace announced that the King would officially hand over his role as Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Air Corps to the Prince of Wales on Monday, as his younger son revealed that the King would not find time to see him while he was in Britain. Prince Harry, who arrived in Britain without his wife, this one's wife, or their children, will attend a service at St. Paul's Cathedral to mark the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games, Harry's Paralympic-style competition for military veterans. The Duke of Sussex has suggested that he also wished to spend time with his father, who was diagnosed with cancer earlier this year. However, a spokesman for the Duke revealed that the King, who last week returned to frontline public duties as his treatment continues, could, unfortunately, not find time to see Harry due to the monarch's diary of commitments and various other priorities. Now, pausing there. If the King wanted to see Harry, he would find the time to do so, because after all, he's the King. Yes, his diary is filled up in advance, and he has the added complication of health issues, but at the end of the day, his darling boy lives on the other side of the planet across the ocean. He doesn't see him very often, and when he's back in town, if he really, really wanted to spend time with him, he'd find a way to do so. He would perhaps move an appointment. He might invite him to come and breakfast with him, so that whilst he's doing that, they can at least spend some time together. So he would double up on something. But the fact is that Charles, asserting control and wanting to demonstrate his disapproval of the Prince of Pink Pancake's errant ways, has made it clear there's no time for you, Harry. This is entirely as a consequence of Harry's behaviour, aided and abetted by that of this one's wife. Encouraged by her to spout a load of nonsense in spare, for the purposes of asserting control and continuing her smear of the royal family, he's burnt bridges. With his continued whining and victimhood, he's really got on the tits of the royal family. And this has resulted in him being essentially snubbed, because he's ostracised his family, again encouraged by his wife, and therefore why would they want to bother themselves with somebody who cannot be trusted? Why would they want to bother themselves with somebody who would take anything that is said and look to pass it on to Netflix, or perhaps for this one's wife's shitty podcast with Lemonada if they ever see the light of day? The fact is that the King is fully aware of the risk that Harry presents, and therefore needs to express his disapproval by making it evident that he has no time to see him, so that Harry perhaps starts to understand how far he has fallen with regard to his relations with his family, that even though he has come from across the ocean, that he has travelled a considerable distance, time is still not made for him. That he is unable to stay in a royal residence, that no chums will put him up on a sofa or in the purple drawing room or whatever, that he has to stay on his lonesome in a hotel. A spokesman for Prince Harry said, in response to the many inquiries and continued speculation on whether or not the Duke will meet with his father while in the UK this week, it unfortunately will not be possible due to His Majesty's full programme. The Duke, of course, is understanding of his father's diary of commitments and various other priorities and hopes to see him soon. Now, the fact is, no public pronouncement needed to be made about this. They could deal with one another in private. But once again, tainted by the attitude that comes from his narcissist wife, tapping into his own victim mentality, Harry has to make it known that my dad didn't want to see me. I'm the victim. Once again, making it seem like Charles is the baddie, failing to recognise his own culpability as to why his own father, who hasn't seen him in quite some time, since at least February, and that was only a brief visit, who probably doesn't speak to him very often. Ordinarily, a parent would be delighted to see their child, particularly one that lives a long way away. But Charles, of course, needs to nullify the threat to control that Harry poses with regard to his behaviour and send a clear message to him. He's entirely correct to do so. After all, Harry's behaviour merits being treated this way. But I doubt still that Harry will wake up as to what he has become and how his behaviour has merited this social exclusion. Instead, he has to trot out a statement saying, I understand that he's got commitments, etc., and I hope to see him soon. The report continues by explaining it remained unclear whether Harry's office had made an official request to visit his father, who has a full diary of engagements which were planned months in advance. But I make the point again that ultimately room could have been found, something could have been moved around, or in the course of the day, Charles has to sit down and have something to eat, be it breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And even at that, he could say, yep, come along, we'll breakfast together, we'll take lunch together. And in those circumstances, that gives us half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour together. But he's not moved to do so, and understandably so. The King met the Prime Minister of Fiji on Tuesday and will host the first garden party of the year at Buckingham Palace on Wednesday. On Monday, the King will join Prince William for a rare joint engagement. Not you, Harry, no time for you, at the Army Aviation Centre in Middle Wallop, Hampshire. Great name. Charles will officially hand over his colonelcy to his elder son and unveil a plaque commemorating the arrival of the first Apache AH Mark I to be installed in a UK museum. The role would most likely have passed to Harry had he not left his official royal duties 4 years ago. Harry was an Apache helicopter pilot. Well, so they say. I think he was a gunner rather than a pilot, and served with the Army Air Corps in Afghanistan. Yet any hopes of a reunion between Harry and senior members of the royal family during his current visit look vanishingly small. In an interview in February, Harry hinted that the King's cancer diagnosis might have a reunifying effect. Interesting that he says that, of course, because the illness of this one's wife's father doesn't appear to have had any reunifying effect. Harry added that various trips would take me through the UK or back to the UK, so you know I'll stop in and see my family as much as I can. When Harry flew to Britain shortly after his father's cancer diagnosis was revealed in February, the Prince was granted only a short meeting with his father at Clarence House, where his stepmother Camilla was present to see parts pass him. Shortly after the meeting, which lasted less than 45 minutes, the King and Queen departed for Sandringham. As Harry arrived at the Honourable Artillery Company's headquarters in London for a one-day summit called the Invictus Games Foundation Conversation, he paid tribute to the commitment, enthusiasm and belief of the veteran community. Writing in the foreword for the summit, Harry said, "It has been an honour to watch the Invictus Games Foundation grow over the years. What began as a vision to pay tribute to the courage and resilience of wounded, injured and sick service personnel and veterans has flourished into an international organisation built on hope, strength and unity." Well, for once, how good of it to be about the veterans rather than his wife. The article then just tells us a little bit about the games and how it was inspired and where they've taken part in the past. Not something that you necessarily need to know about. But the point is this. Harry hasn't been afforded time with his father and also has been overlooked with regard to an Air Corps honour as well. Why has this happened? Well, it's happened as a consequence of his behaviour, which has resulted in his father asserting control by basically saying, no, I haven't got time to see you. How you like me now? And I'm going to give the honour to your big brother because he does the right thing rather than being a ginger twat. Notwithstanding these two firm smacks, it's unlikely that Harry will wake up and realise that this is a product of his own behaviour, which of course has been heavily influenced by that of this one's wife. Regularly, those individuals who are ensnared by a narcissist engage in behaviour which causes them to act in a way which is outside of that they ordinarily would behave. Many people come to me in consultation, frustrated at the behaviour of people who've fallen under the sway of a narcissist, wondering what can be done about it. With Harry, there is still quite a way for him to go before he actually wakes up to what has actually occurred. Harry has been spurned by his father. That sends a clear message as to how he is regarded, that he can't find time. He can't find any time to spend with his son. Now, we know Harry's not particularly bright. We know that Harry is very much in the fog of his emotional thinking and the grip of his manipulative wife. But you might think that he would start to realise, hang on a second, I've flown all the way here and Pa can't find any time for me. What's that all about? Unfortunately, I think he will still, because of the influence that his wife has affected over him with regard to his own victim mentality, exacerbating it, cultivating it, will cause him to think Pa's being a horrible old meanie. He won't think to himself, is this something that I've contributed to? Is this something that I've caused? Is this something that I've done, and how do I repair it? Let's find out if there's much sympathy for Harry in relation to this state of affairs where his own father won't find any time to see him. A father who is unwell with cancer, albeit undergoing treatment, decides, no, I'm not going to find any time for you. Let's see what people are thinking in relation to Harry's behaviour. Steve Clayton writes, good, buzz off back to California, Harry. Bill Pegg writes, Harry is contemptible and deserves to be spurned by his father. Anybody who is willing to trash their family in print and on screen for money should be given the cold shoulder. Jeff Davies, well done, Charles. Trevor Burton, if Harry previously hasn't got the message, he should now. Leslie James, very sensible. Why give the Ginger Whinger more material for his commercial enterprises? Jay Parsons, how sad that the king is too busy to meet with his son. What a missed opportunity, as the Invictus games are amazing and inspirational. David Anderson, funny thing is I'm sorting out my sock drawer this week too. Patrick Doherty, very petty and cowardly behaviour by a father towards his son. Bill Pegg responds to that, a son who has been more than willing to trash his family for a few quid. Interesting observations, many of which already are supportive, of course, of the king. Although there is some support for Harry, Mr. Patrick Elliott writes, what a family. Too busy to see your son. Pathetic. Alan Clark, Harry has a cheek, but Charles has shown common sense. Good news. Lynn Blackburn, and it continues, why doesn't he leave his father alone? Weeping to the press that Charles won't see him, he's accused him, Camilla, Catherine and William of all sorts. What a dreadful piece of work he is. Julian Hill, Harry is so thick, he thinks he can return as if nothing has happened. This one's wife thought she could prevail over an institution 1,000 years old, just as thick as her toy boy husband. Rara Adradi, whatever the supposed crime he has committed, it speaks volumes about Charles that he can't find the time to see his son. What a cad. Jay Walsh responds to that by explaining he has cancer. Spending his chemotherapy wondering how much of a meeting may end up on Good Morning America is not conducive to well-being. The stress this guy and his wife caused everyone in the family may well be a factor in the rather significant ill health currently being experienced. C. Gilmore, his own family doesn't want anything to do with this huckster. M. Lamy, What a shame, but I suppose the risk of Harry misrepresenting any conversation and relaying it to the press makes it just not worthwhile. Bill Pegg, it must be terrible not be able to meet your son because you were worried that your personal conversation will probably appear in a book or on Netflix. You made your bed, Harry. H.C. Tong, give him a break, Charlie. He's just a silly boy, and as his dad, some of the issues revolve around how he was brought up. Mary Willis responds to that. He's not a boy. He's a middle-aged man and has behaved disgracefully towards his father and his wife. His sister-in-law, and it appears, wants them to apologise to him. As the late Queen told them, you cannot be half in and half out. He made his choice and must now live with it. There is some sympathy for Harry with regard to the way that he's been treated by his father, but there are plenty of people understanding why Harry has done this, why Charles has done this rather, and that Harry deserves to be treated in this manner. The fundamental thing is, will Harry wake up and realise why he's found himself in this position? One suspects, not yet. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.